Well, there would have fit her at least 6 months.
Not moving as fast as.
Two?
They had 2 days of stand-up, yesterday and today.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, yesterday and today. No.
Still, you wouldn't be able
Yeah,
to.
that's right, you were there.
But anyway, the long story short,
Wow, the recovery is
the other thing is that
About the first
they probably got so much because they lost some of the stuff that you gave them.
Well, that's what all this is.
I think Goodwill, they took a lot of it.
It's all gonna be
See what
he does not have to take any of it. And when did the next
infestation, that second to
What do you think?
Well, there's nothing we didn't hear about what's going on in China.
I'm
What?
happy to hear
Page 7, page 5 and 7, that's the new bird flu. It's transferring from people to people now. They have about 700 cases.
goddamn scientists.
maybe
They said they went to work on the bird flu.
And we all know this is a desired disease, but this is just coming up now. This is killed some people last year, and now it's killing more people, but it's in China.
Yeah, but the subject before, it would only transfer.
Well, it did transfer from birds to people, but now it's people to people.
Yeah, but it would only a percentage, like 7% of the people got infested. Yeah, well, the bastards, the mad scientists perfected it, so it's 100% transferable from bird to human. And if it's that, it sure as hell is transferable from human to human. So this is a scientific
This is a
nightmare.
different one. This was the H1. This is the exemption.
The date wasn't even confirmed. He said at some point, unfortunately.
In fact, I may have been sick with it too.
Oh, well, you're going to protect yourself.
Just make sure to ask.
I just go to the grocery store.
If I gotta sit and flip burgers the whole time, I will sit and flip.
If I were a son of a bitch that was trying to get that stuff infected into the populace, you sure hell would see me in grocery stores putting it down.
Well, the problem is the grocery stores are fairly empty now too. There's not a whole lot of people in there, mostly the people that have been in there more every day or something.
Yeah, I'll just tell him.
They've been trying forever to have a pandemic, so now it looks like it's going to start in China.
We already had a pandemic. We had the swine flu back in 1918. You weren't even born.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about today.
We had several that started, but it doesn't work because they come up with new better medications, but it doesn't work.
I think they're going to
But
be
now
all
there's
sitting on
specific,
their ass.
right? This age 7 and 5 is really wrong. Age 7 and 5. Whatever, it was just mental
My
health.
wife, they first thought it was, not our
Nice to
tradition.
hear you doing. I can't do anything about it.
It was good. And I,
You can't do a damn thing
I
about it.
thought it was tendonitis, so they gave her cortisone.
They have, perfected it,
And
now
they
they're
gave her
transferring it.
for 10 days. And of course, I was trying to do the very supportive husband.
Really? Gee,
he was supposed to go back and oh, geez, still making some good pretzel. So we were sitting Tuesday, they called him up. For something else. I brought some onions right on the grill. They thought at first it was just.
I said to him,
Yeah.
No, it was not, you know, I don't know what the original. I don't know.
Sam, sorry I can't attend, but my idea is this.
Well, either way,
So
it's
he claims
tough.
that and talk about those at the
We went over there Friday.
luncheon.
sitting with Laura tonight too, so that's why
You can't move. We could have
Oh, yeah.
don't worry about it, right? I told
At the age they are, they have to want to help their kids.
she's probably calling down. I told her she called
They have
down.
class.
I told her, tell them to
They
calm
you
down.
put on a really good
Back
class.
them up back.
You run the kids right. Because
I'm not worried about it.
What are you getting for
Yes,
this?
he does.
It's not by the
right now we're at 20. I'm not sure what the schedule is.
She is running 16 different things
Yeah.
at one time.
Almost
This is almost.
Nikki? No, yes?
Nikki hasn't responded, but she told me she was coming last time, so I'm gonna start next week, I'll start calling
West.
people that I haven't heard from yet,
West.
so. The only, she's.
It's on the west side,
Yeah.
yeah.
She is.
But, yeah, they, yeah.
You didn't have to get
But they do put on a great thing where they, you know, they.
My car.
Lay out, kids are gonna do one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. You know, shooting arrows, learning about nature.
But she had one she showed me.
Doing it in a way.
I stopped in her place. I haven't seen
Did a great job. You know, there's a lot of, I was,
what was this card from her.
so I summer camp, my memories of camp.
Oh,
When I would go to summer
the
camp,
big one I
big
got
army
is
there,
by the trash.
canvas,
I know,
you know,
you didn't
tents,
get
that's what the summer camp
I
was.
don't think so.
Well, they had those.
But what the hell
They're not
ended
Boy
up
Scouts, they're not like the
for
Army was anymore, they're the
you
actual
know,
Boy
I
Scouts.
think in the last election,
But they're very similar,
besides the guy,
and it was fun to be laying in a
I
tent like
didn't
that.
turn it over.
You have that flag,
Yeah,
again,
I
and then
didn't
you look over and it's like, oh, that's my son. I have a 8-year-old, 7-year-old, and my daughter's.
It will, almost all of them designed now, so there's an area of zero entry kind of climb.
She's the only girl
So
on my
almost
side.
all, and I'll make sure they're in the plans and stuff, but we built a.
Last Grammy.
And it's not only the.
I didn't know.
We're building
Oh, the
everything
second
down
one.
again.
Yeah, I think I
So
know.
they go down into the.
Yeah. You just noticed it was gone.
I just noticed.
I don't have the fences in the plan, I have to put it in there as
But they really, part of it, really fun, and she takes care of her.
Where is that related to your house? It's really all over the other 4 blocks
Come back, it was your.
west.
It's right over here on the south.
My daughter did.
Fire station.
She noticed, you know.
Yes.
There's one.
Youngest
What's that one?
child, last
Sorry about
child,
But I'll see you
and
next
the
time.
only girl.
No.
She definitely believes that she's a princess, but
Oh, you
We
mean
have
in
an extra
school?
one.
big older brother.
Is there a big playground there? There's another one. It's a big open lot.
Well, the school, you follow the last one, school.
Same time,
When I leave your house,
she told some
make a
strangers
left
that
turn at the first one.
I knew I was in trouble with
Yeah,
that.
where the stop signs
She
are.
was talking to
I make a left turn and come over it. I run right into a
It was
park.
actually some Boy Scouts in there.
And people, all of there's some assholes that park on the grass there. And I wonder, what the hell is that?
Telling her, her whole life
What's that
story.
parking?
And
Oh,
then
it's
after that, then I'll say deer bolted by.
you know which one I mean?
Please,
It's just a
you need to
big
be a believer.
playground.
Deer bolted by and scared me even more,
They
so
have
I
a
was
lot of
hightailing it
trouble.
out of there at that point.
Yeah.
Well, they have.
I'm a believer.
But that's not,
I wonder if we're thinking of the same place.
our school's got a park, so,
Oh.
but that's, they put up the timer.
You know where that,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, is it Arab temple?
What? The, at my school right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
Well, just this way from that, isn't that big open space?
That belongs, that doesn't belong, part of that belongs to the house, because they're.
It's kind of creeping you
Well,
out.
then as I'm
Mrs.
walking
Sarah
out
still
there,
lives
2
on the
deer
property
bolt by
on
and
the
scared me
side.
to daylight out of it. I started hustling out of there.
Drive
at that
by
point.
there when we get out of here tonight. Show you what I was thinking.
I looked at your Kia there. Nice car.
Yeah, we really like it. Did I tell you how they?
You did, yeah, yeah. You told me it was all you.
It was your wife.
Yeah.
She's the one, we bought a car, we bought it actually where my son lives up in St. Paul. And, I had gone in and looked at it and, told her about it, so.
Well, there's a lot more people that gotta be here.
sat down and
people that sit at the table.
and the finance director. And so he starts, he's got his offer sheet, he starts going, he gave us the price for our trade-in, and it was really good. And,
I'd like to get as many people as we had last week.
what do you
Yeah,
think?
that'd be nice.
We had 31.
Yeah, that's the best turnout, ain't it?
Yeah, we had, well, you remember, 31. Carver, we had 26, but our first meeting, 6 or 7 only. Remember? It was in the community center.
Mhm.
We had as many staff there as we did participants.
For sure.
So, but I don't know, it's so hard in the evenings nowadays. And
I went over to one of those guys, I think the one that,
There's two of them coming.
I think the one that was the man that's sitting over there, and I said, I'm kind of disappointed that there aren't a lot more people in the attendance. And he looked at this guy and he says, well, there's so many more modes of
Yeah.
communication, he said.
Yeah.
So then this guy says, yeah, he gets email.
Oh, we get emails daily.
Yeah,
Yeah.
saying, I can't make it, but
Yeah.
this is my idea.
Yeah, and or they'll go right to the website, and they'll put their comments there, and then we'll get them that way too, or they'll email us directly. Yeah, and that works. And a lot of people use that, so it just gets logged in there, and it'll all get brought up at a later date and stuff. So, yeah, the whole communication things obviously have changed too. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I guess.
but it all works. You know, I would like to see people here,
Yes,
certainly, but.
a show of interest.
Yeah, I mean, parks should generate interest,
Good, yes.
you know, so, we'll just have to kind of see what happens.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm hopeful. I mean, you know, we've got 2 other outreach meetings coming up. Hi, Chuck. On the 15th at the Hmong American Alliance Church from 5 to 8.
I'm sorry, go back.
August 15th, we have another one at the Hmong American Alliance Church.
Another meeting like this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then another one on September 5th.
Oh,
Yeah,
If it's going well, we might go for a second.
so,
interestingly, I don't say it too much, but I have noted that the Hmong and other nationalities, if you will, have a tendency to, when we put out nice park, to dominate and take the over. And they don't welcome any, what would one say, persons of
Yeah, I've gotten some phone calls.
different
Looks like we've got some people starting.
breed or whatever, however you want to say it. And I've seen
wanna
that.
talk trails,
And
I told Steve.
I remember years ago, I don't know if you ever went down there, but at Square Lake.
oh, yeah, that's where they're diving or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, before
Yeah.
it became private,
Yeah,
there was a saloon there, and there was a picnic area,
Huh?
and they had a badminton net set
uh-huh,
up. That same thing happened to that, and I don't know
take a
where
seat.
they
We'll
were
start
from,
right
but they
at
were
7.
bad.
uh-huh.
I'm
They
Jim.
were so active that everybody else left.
Yeah.
And that's what I worry about with some of these.
Yeah,
things.
yeah. Come on in. Come on in.
Hello. Hi. Have a seat, folks.
Some other sections where we might be able to talk about that a little more and some ideas that you might have for projects and stuff, so.
Hi, Dwayne Kaneko, City Manager, I'm the Park and Rec Director. Thank you for coming. Yeah. Hi, Dwayne Kaneko, City Manager. Nice to meet you. Hi.
Hi, I'm Thea.
Hi, nice to meet you. We do have a couple of additional meetings that we'll talk about that are coming up. One is coming up on August 13th, too, at the Hmong American Alliance Church.
Yeah.
And then we have one in September, we have at Maplewood Community Center. So, we're very willing to open to ideas, go back to, especially the court case we played, Kip, Takara.
they did it.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a court for that sepulchre?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, sorry. All right, here's so, and that seems to be something, you know, an event there too, and 3 on site, is that correct? Yeah, okay.
Oh, well, no.
My team is in back.
Oh, he said he didn't want it.
Oh, okay.
Pick up the information. I will give you
Oh, you got it? Oh, okay.
yeah, I got here.
Oh, this is, oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, this is something, oh, okay.
I don't really know, I mean, it's probably, something in the parks.
Where'd you guys play?
Okay.
Been walking around Maplewood today, and walking on the trails there, and I didn't see very many oceans.
Oh.
I don't know, marsh, I didn't know how many people it might be.
Well, in American, it's called top span.
Jim Taylor.
Yeah, but in my own language, it's called blue.
Perfect.
Okay.
What's the other?
So,
Come over, swing by, see.
see, I thought it was called sepulchre. Isn't it sepulchre? Is there different? Oh, okay.
No, I think what.
Yeah, he gets my.
Oh, the bigger, that's, okay.
No, the one he said, I know.
No, I always like that YouTube. That's what they call it. It's like a hard wall.
Okay, yeah.
If you ever want to see it,
Yeah.
go with us.
Oh, really? Yeah, uh-huh.
Watch it.
Well, no, I haven't. All right, we will take this, while you have.
I like that idea right there, the benches.
Yeah.
I like the benches idea in Maplewood, let's talk about that.
Thank you.
Probably one of my favorite.
Yes, well, and we have a couple more, Bob, you're trading
That's
some
probably my favorite.
this, project.
You know, with the preserve right there,
This is,
everything's growing really well.
Chuck All, who's our city manager.
My favorite area.
And, Senator Plonhoff, he's from the, and I'm working with Victor, he's been really wonderful to work with, Jim and I, and staff, and we really appreciate the, you guys kind of sharing this information as well. And we did, Jim and I did visit the Long American Alliance Church today ahead of the meeting next week as well. So, yeah, this is Chuck All, our city manager.
Yes. Did you replace John?
Yes.
I used to work with John. in City Hall.
Okay, yeah. Been there first,
Hi.
nice.
Good, how are you? Jim Taylor.
Wayne still enjoying it?
Nice to meet you.
After all that?
Me too. So far, so good. Trying to figure this out, man. We got kind of a brief presentation and open up for questions or comments, and we'll actually break into some sub areas of the specific area we want to talk a little bit more about. All right, thank you.
We already talked to you about his project.
Yeah, he did, and I kind of knew it was coming. I got a heads up on that from,
Jim Taylor.
okay,
Wait,
yeah.
No.
Oh, no.
And it was something that we heard too.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Jim and I
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. So we'll get started right at 7. We have a little bit of a presentation, then we'll take some comments, then we'll break into some subgroups that you can talk about more in depth.
The agenda this evening, essentially, we've got, I'll do a quick intro. Bob's going to talk a little bit about the planning and process. Jim's got maybe a 20-minute slide presentation, once in a row, background. And then we're going to kind of open it up to all of you. And we're going to sit back and that's, you know, and that's been the process thus far. We'll collect all the comments, and then we'll compile it. And put it all together. We've got a participant task force that meets on a monthly basis.
And apparently you go down the steps and kind of walk in the aisle and talk to them.
Week at, well, a couple hundred people.
Well, I'm very glad that you finished. You care about me also.
Well, no, that's part of our job. We want this plan to be successful, and I want it to be recommended. Staff, with in our fields. We've been out there when we're using our fields, so it's something that we need to bring back in.
Gotta be everybody's community.
Yeah.
You're part of the community and we make this, your parks. So we wanna be sure we get it right.
I just listen along with you develop, but if you know, want to say something, I'll be happy to.
Oh, absolutely,
Or, you know,
yeah.
maybe.
And we'll have a translator too, at both of the meetings on August 15th, and then the following September 3rd. And so we'll be able to mail it up as well. So, and you can be here the night as well. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
But I'm real thankful for your help.
See my role.
I think you, by just being here and helping us with the outreach already, helping us set up a meeting next week, the meeting after, you've been tremendously helpful. I hope I have been a pain in the ass. That's my concern. Thank you, thank you.
Mike Weather and the whole outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm,
So is that good enough for you anymore?
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, and it helps
Hi. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. So we'll at 7, we'll kind of do our portion of
Oh, sure.
Sounds good.
Well, you're gonna have sure ideas.
Victor, you're
I already got it. Don't.
I tried to come last time.
it's, you know, if we can get some folks out at the little team gets at the end. Yeah. Good, good. Thank you very much.
How are you?
Good for you. I usually try to work a couple hours.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Jenny.
Yeah, very good.
I'm the Sacramento Traffic City of Maplewood.
My family.
Thank you for
I
coming.
work with travel. I don't know.
I don't want to know you. How are you? Oh, hi. 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 Thank you.
That means everybody's happy with what we're doing.
Here, you got
I did, yeah, I got a lot of notes.
All right, all we're gonna do this evening is we'll kind of go through the same formats that we're doing. We've done both at the meeting on August 15th and the meeting thereafter. So, and then what I'd like to do then is if we can, it will be after. Yeah, if you have any questions. Yeah, if you don't, or we can send you some material as well, and mail it to you. Presentation, I'm just going to do that background. And then we're more looking to engage we want to hear we want to yeah. So any suggestions, ideas, I'll give you my card. And Jim can give you his card. Or why don't you just tell us what's going on? This is, you know, if we need to meet again, meeting next week, we'll do that. We can email you all the.
He actually.
No.
Yeah, well, thank you. And your name was Jane? Jane.
How are you? Yes. Not much. There's a good amount. It's really good.
How are you?
I'm good.
How are you? Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Pretty good. Yes.
Good to see you again.
Yes, yes.
Kim, how are you?
Hi, Kim. How are you? Good to see you again. Good. Hi, Dwayne.
He was out there for a while.
How's the battle going? I did.
Well, that's good. That's important. Wayne, great to see you again. It's been a while. Thank you. Good to see you. It's too dark in the house. Totally against it. Okay, there you go. Over on the Spanish. Around back and forth, trying to figure out what happened there. I get a little nervous. It's getting very busy. We're on central right now, so right now I'm spending a lot of, I still have my regular job. Yeah, so I'm doing that. I still thought once we was hard all day, we have to meeting with people, doing different things. Trying hard, it's a lot of work. I kept missing the parts there, but it's kind of the way it is.
Yeah.
You need that to do others. That's good to see you're still involved with things. Kim here. Yeah, Kim's a go-getter. It's good to have her on. Peter, you're good, Jim. Yourself? Getting people out here. The thing is, at least you asked them. That's you. When you get a personal, some good personal answer.
Well, greetings. My name is Dwayne Nico. I'm the Park and Rec Director for the City of Maplewood. And I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the city. This is our fourth community meeting in a series of four. We've got two additional ones coming up on August 15th from 5 to 8 at the Monday American Alliance Church. There's another one coming up on September 5th at the Maplewood Community Center from 5 to 8 p.m. So if you've got some neighbors, or if you want to share some additional information, there's a couple of opportunities there. Or as Jim Taylor, our park manager, and Bob Beerscheid, working with staff in this project, or myself, you can contact us via email, you can call us, and we'll make sure that we take your comments and incorporate them into the record. So the purpose of the meeting this evening is to gather information, and it's more not to tell you or have staff tell you what our expectations are going forward, but we want to listen to you. I don't know how many of you had the opportunity to venture out last night during National Night Out, but that was an opportunity to do what? Build community, right? With a heavy presence of public safety and that kind of thing too. Staff believes as we go through this creation of this comprehensive master plan that we too have an opportunity to build community through people, parks, and programs. And that's our goal. And we can't get there though without your input into that process. So it's important that we hear from our residents. And in order for this plan to be successful, again, this is a vision that's going to look out over the next, say, 20 to 25 years or so. So we need to put on our thinking caps and look out to essentially the next quarter century or so. So it's important that we not only understand our changing demographics, our changing trends, but also resources too. So Jim and Bob can speak to that. I'd like to introduce Chuck All is here. He's our city manager. He's kind of behind us. He is my boss, so thanks to Chuck. We've got a legislator here. Peter, will you introduce yourself?
I'm Peter Fisher. I represent a big chunk of White Bear Lake, big chunk of Maplewood here, and then parts of Montemead and Birchwood. And years ago, I used to be chair of the Parks Commission for a number of years.
And Mr. Fisher was a tremendous asset for the city as well, in working with our Park Commission too. And Senator, will you introduce yourself too, sir?
My name is Senator Spongher, and I'm newly elected. I just served my first session. My district actually is the other side of Lavender, but Mr. Dwayne called me and invited me to be here too as part of outreach. And I work very close with the state senator here too, Chuck Wigger, and also Senators Bass Scuzzy from Little Canada, and Representative Fisher and I have. When we first met, he said, "How can you help us reach out to the Hmong community?" And I said, "Okay, so it looks like it's happening." And so that's the reason I'm I live on Clarence Street, as a matter of fact, it's just like a couple blocks down. I'm involved in the Ramsey Washington Watershed District, so I've been, cleaning up lakes and, helping with shoreline restoration too. So Park and Rec is not something new to me.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you. And then Steve Love is somewhere. He's our assistant city engineer, and he's working with staff on the creation of this document as well. So with that, Bob's going to introduce things, and then he's going to turn it over to Mr. Jim Taylor, our Parks Manager. He's got a slide presentation he's going to go through, and then we'll have an opportunity to have you guys kind of provide input in the process, and then we're going to kind of break out into some separate areas so you can get some one-on-one contact too, and Bob and Jim will speak to that when it's their turn. So again, thanks to all of you. Again, there are 2 additional opportunities for outreach too. And aside from that, if you've got any questions ever regarding our parks or preserves or trails or some ideas, please contact staff too. So that input's important too. So thanks to all of you, and with that, Bob.
Thank you, Dwayne, and good evening, everyone. Dwayne mentioned my name is Bob Bierscheid, and just for informational purposes, as he mentioned, I was the former Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of St. Paul. Previous to that, I was Director of Parks and Recreation in the City of Roseville. So they asked me to come in and help kind of guide through the initial part of the planning process. Really appreciate your coming out, because tonight is about you. It's about your plan. The City of Maplewood Parks and Recreation Department is going through a process of updating the master plan for what they do in Parks and Recreation and providing services and facilities throughout the entire community. And that plan, as I mentioned, as Dwayne mentioned, is over 20 to 25 years. That takes a lot of foresight to go out. And it really starts with the people that live in the community, because it doesn't matter what a professional thinks, what I think, or what Dwayne thinks, or Jim thinks. It's all about serving the people that live in that community. And that's what Parks and Recreation should be about. Now, the process is that they're going through, there is approximately 20-member committee, task force, that has been appointed by the Maplewood City Council. And those individuals are going through, and we meet once a month to discuss all the various elements in the Parks and Recreation current master plan, and are looking at making some recommendations for the future. And those recommendations are by gathering information from you. This is the 4th of a series of community meetings that have been held. And we've had some really, really good feedback. We've also received a lot of feedback from individuals who have called or emailed in. And before I forget, tonight you have some homework. So everybody that came, the fact that you came, you all have now homework that you have to go home with. Your homework is that when you leave here, to all your neighbors and friends throughout the community of Maplewood, to make sure to tell them that this process is going on, even though they couldn't make it tonight, by using the email, by using the telephone, or writing a letter, or stopping up to the Parks and Recreation office, whatever it takes, to get information about this system. And we're going to go through some of the outlines of the plan in just a second. And sometimes some of the language gets a little technical and so on, and what we want you to do is just ask good basic questions and give good basic information on what you like or what you don't like about the system, and what you may have seen in some other places. But we'll talk about that in just a second. Our agenda for tonight will be, we've done the introductions. I'm going to go through in a second how we will conduct the meeting, just to remind ourselves when we go through a public meeting process. Jim will then go through the overview of the current park systems plan and talk to you about what's in it and the kinds of parks and activities and things that are there. We're going to talk a little bit, I mentioned that task force, and I want to go through, it won't take a long time, but specifically what they're being charged with so you can see. And then if you have any questions about what they're doing, you can certainly ask those questions. And then we're going to ask you, in kind of general terms, anyone that wants to, with the group, to give your opinion. And again, on the likes or dislikes, things that you think are not being used well, or maybe not maintained, or you'd like to see more of. Maybe you visited family and friends in another community and have seen something that you think Maplewood should consider. That's the kind of information that we want to give out. Certainly, and that's during the questions and comments. And then the last part, and this first part, all of the first 5 parts will go relatively quickly. The last part is the most important part, and that's when you can sit down with the staff that are here and really talk in detail or ask questions in detail and get more specific information about why is this trail connected here, or what do you have plans for something in the future, and they'll have some more specific information that they can talk to you about. Okay, let's jump into the guidelines. First of all, when we go to meetings like this, we all have different opinions. Everyone in this room views the system slightly differently, depending upon your experience, how you feel about it, and so on. And that's good. That's because we all are different people. We're all individuals. But what we ask is when we discuss it, that we simply respect each other's point of view. Even if it's 180 degrees from us, and that happens. But we simply want that respect so we can get the information out. We ask simply to speak one at a time. The other part of it is that, and I really, maybe it's the fact that I'm a grandfather of 6 grandkids, that I tend to emphasize this more and more. But be a good listener. Seems like more and more, maybe against the Asian factor, but we don't listen as well as we should, and I'm responsible myself. So we ask that you listen to everyone that speaks, so that you can understand that information and what their point of view is as you form your point of view. We ask that if you have comments and so on in terms of the group meeting, you keep them brief. If you want to get into more detail, that's when we do the breakout sessions. That's when we'd ask that you do it there. And then we really want your participation. And if a lot of people in group settings like this, and over the years I've seen many cases, really don't like to do it in a group setting, and that's why we're doing the breakout. So if you really want to talk kind of one-on-one or small groups, or you want to write it down, as I said, and email it or drop it off, whatever it is, they want your feedback. I can't emphasize that enough. That's what this is about, is getting the feedback from the people in Maplewood. Any questions thus far? Okay. Jim was going to talk about the overview of the park system.
Okay, before we can kind of talk about, what we need to do better and what we can improve upon and what you like, what you don't like, I want to just give a quick overview of what we currently have and what our current comprehensive plan says about our Parks and Recreation system. So, start first, and this was mentioned before, the City Council has made one of their 2012 to 2014 goals to explore a referendum for a sustainable park system and to develop a comprehensive park systems plan. Staff believes we can do both of these things simultaneously through this community process that we're doing right now. In addition, staff has recognized that we have a changing demographic and we need to make that a priority when we're talking about the future of our park system. So the Park Systems Plan, we use chapters 6 and 7 of the 2030 Comprehensive Plan as its baseline. The Comprehensive Plan was adopted on January 25th, 2010. Our Comprehensive Plan is our guiding document as a city, and chapters 6 and 7 deal specifically with Parks and Recreation. In that plan, there's a lot of open-ended questions that we're trying to make answers to right now. A lot on funding, a lot on how our future management is going to be of our system. So that's what we're trying to do. We're going to use this as a baseline, but we're going to expand upon the principles that are in these chapters. Currently, the comprehensive plan tries to accomplish the following goals. We want all our residents to live within half mile of the park. That could be active or passive and independent motorship, meaning it could be a city park, a county park, or a state park, etc. We do meet that to the tune of mid to upper 90% of households in the city of Maplewood all do live within a half mile of the park, so we're doing very well on that one. For every 1,000 people, we want approximately 5 acres of parkland, that can serve our residents. We do a very good job of that as well. With the amount of parkland we have, we can serve a population of about 400,000 people with just the parkland that we have currently within this city. So we're doing very well in that. We have a great system. It's just how are we going to continue to maintain it and be sustainable doing it. And then we do maintain a no net loss on our preserve system that we have. So what do we have currently in our acres? We have a total of 860 acres. That's preserve and open space is 308 acres of that. And our active parks make up 552 acres. In addition to our 860 acres within the city limits, we're fortunate enough to have 1,175 acres of county, state, and agency-owned land. So a lot of land for our residents to recreate in. That's made up of 36 parks and 14 preserves and open spaces, plus the Fish Creek property we're in the process of acquiring. At the time the comprehensive plan was developed, we had 81.1 miles of trail and sidewalk within the city, and that number has grown quite a bit since the comp plan was created. We have the full extension of the Lake Links Trail done. We've added a lot of sidewalk and trails in our street projects, so that number is much higher today than it was when the comprehensive plan was developed. And then we also operate our 90,000 square foot Maplewood Community Center. So a little bit about why parks and trails are important. We all, every park and trail user knows the benefits of green space, but the benefits of parks, trails, and open spaces go far beyond our users. It touches the lives of everybody that lives and works in Maplewood. It improves our physical and psychological health and strengthens our sense of community. Makes our community a more attractive place. The benefits of parks and trails are comprehensive for Maplewood residents, the economy, and the environment. You know, we forget about some of those external things besides just playing it. There is an economic part of all this too, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So a little bit about just the benefits of parks. A lot of personal benefits, quality of life. It improves the quality of life in this community. Bonding with family and friends, physical activity, physical and mental health, enjoying nature. Some of the community benefits are it's a gathering place for the community, a sense of community pride, a sense of place, social capital, community trust, and existence value. Some more of the benefits, the environmental benefits are ecosystem services, environmental protection, a sense of stewardship in our parks, environmental awareness, and political community involvement in environmental issues. So a little bit more about the economic benefits, and we'll have another slide on this in a second. But it creates economic growth and jobs. Tourism revenue, business acquisition and retention, increased property value. So a little bit on that increased property value. And this was a study done back in 2007, so obviously we know the housing market has changed a little bit, but it's still going to ring true in some regards. A residential single-family property near an open space at this time was worth $16,750 more than one that does not have a park or open space around it. So again, that's changed a little bit. That was a Washington County study, but there's still value there if your home is adjacent to a park or open space. So how are we going to go about doing this? We want to create a form and a plan that establishes the way our residents, community organizations, businesses in the city to collaborate, to set priorities for a sustainable park system and take action. This process should include all of our stakeholders. The plan will consider the city's parks as a system, not individual parks. We will take a look at individual parks and what the needs are, but we're trying to look at a system approach to how we can sustain our park system as is. Why do we need this? We've seen infrastructure needs mount. The city has estimated that it's a large number. We're still in the process of working through that. It's somewhere around $10 million in infrastructure needs. Our system was built 20, 25 years ago, and those structures that were put in then are starting to fail now, and there is a replacement cost on those. We have a severely aging park system with majority of our parks over 20 years old. We have a changing demographic, and we need to adjust what we're offering for amenities. When we put our park system together 20, 25 years ago, priorities are different for our residents now. There's other things that have came about from a recreation standpoint and a programming standpoint that we aren't meeting the needs for because our park system wasn't set up that way. You know, things like, one of the perfect examples is Wakefield Park up here. We talk about it a lot. It used to be heavily ball field. We used to play a lot of ball games there. Well, that transition has changed a little bit. It's become more of a community and neighborhood park, and those are the things we need to take a look at through this system. Trends in recreation have changed since our park system was developed. Kind of touched on that a second ago. There's new activities being introduced every day, and we need to start looking at those and how we can provide that for the residents of this community. And change is needed to ensure our long-term financial stability for the system. We need to start matching our resources to facilities. So what do we want some of our goals and outcomes to be? We want to engage the community to help shape the future of our parks in Maplewood. This project will give us a 20-year vision. A little bit more on the financial squeeze. We have an aging infrastructure. We talked about that. We've delayed many of our improvements and rehabilitation of our facilities due to budget reasons and not having, and development is slowed in the community, so we don't have the park dedication dollars to put into it. We haven't kept pace with inflation. To put a playground in 10, 15, 20 years ago, it costs about double now than it did then. There's been a decline in development over the last 4 to 5 years that has depleted our PAC funds. Our PAC funds are our park availability charge that we charge developers when they come into this community, both commercial and residential. So with the decline in development, we haven't been receiving those dollars. In addition, those dollars can only be spent on new and redeveloped properties within our system. So many of the things that we need to start keeping up with are considered maintenance. If we need to replace a fence at a park or need to replace a playground at a park, those are considered maintenance and can't be paid for out of these park dedication dollars. So many of the things, and we just talked about this, many of the things we need in our system cannot be paid for out of PAC. So we need to create a non-PAC related revenue stream. This is your chance to help shape and guide the future. We want to answer the following questions. How important are our parks for Maplewood's future? What are the park needs, desires, and priorities for the future? And what resources should be dedicated to achieve this future? And the future needs to be a function of trends, our demographics, and our resources. So we talked, and I know Dewey talked about some of this, but we'll go into this. So we want to have a great public involvement. It's important for us to have effective and public involvement for the park systems plan. Public involvement will include our city staff, our elected officials, and this is our opportunity to educate our stakeholders on what some of the barriers we have to be able to continue with a sustainable park system. And the public involvement will create a value opportunity for our residents and stakeholders to work together and create a plan that best reflects all members of our community. So that's all I have, and Bob's got a couple more slides here. Do we have any? Yeah, just hit the next one.
That's it. Okay. First of all, any questions back on what Jim did specifically?
How many of this session will you continue to have?
I'm sorry?
How many of this session?
There's 2 more after this, and we'll review those dates and times again when we finish. We'll make sure we bring that out. There'll be 2 more. Yes, sir.
Are these slides available on the city website?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Under the city projects page, there's a page dedicated to the park systems plan, and every presentation that we've done, both to this community, the community meetings, and to our task force are available on that page.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up.
If you can find it. I mean, yeah, it's nice that you just told me that, but if you can link it back to these meetings,
yeah,
so that when you click on these meetings, we can tell people, okay, go to the event calendar, you can click on the meetings, and that'll take you to a hot spot that we can get to.
That's a good suggestion.
we can definitely do that.
Find it.
Yep.
That's a good suggestion, an easier way to get back. Because that task force we mentioned, all of those notes and all the discussion we have are out there. But if you can't find it, that doesn't really help you too much, does it? So that's an excellent point. Excellent point. Okay. The task force that we talked about, here are their specific goals, and we're just going to work through these quickly. But first one is to make sure that the park system master plan is aligned with the comprehensive plan, that it's consistent and it looks out over that 20 to 25 year period. And it involves the residents of Maplewood. Again, that's what it's about. It has to identify what the community wants. What are the lifestyles now and projected to be over that period of time. We want to have more sessions like this, and part of this comprehensive plan process will be trying to figure out ways in which to communicate more so people understand when they're talking about the PAC system or about even trails. One of the suggestions that in the task force has been coming up over and over is there are maps of the trails, but the maps really need to be improved. If you're going to really understand where is it that I can access a trail, what kind of trail is it? Is it more for biking, walking, or both, or whatever it is? So that's one of the things that's already come out. We want to establish that vision. Now, I can tell you, not living in Maplewood and not having worked in Maplewood, but having worked around Maplewood and observed it, there has been a good vision for Parks and Recreation within the city of Maplewood. It is respected
throughout the entire state for what they've done. In terms of the environmental aspect of Parks and Recreation, Maplewood is by far the leader, at least in my own opinion, of any community, large or small, in the state of Minnesota. Jim has touched on this one, and this is what it's about. You can have a great system, but if you can't maintain it, it's just like your house or your car or your bicycle. If you're out on the trail, if you can't maintain it, it won't have that value to you or to anyone else. And so that's a lot of what the process is about, is figuring out what are ways to build it right and to make sure that it's sustainable and that it's in the plan to sustain it in the future. Seek opportunities to promote connectivity within the park and the park system. And that includes both physical and community-wise. That means the trail system, the park system, so they're accessible to everyone. And accessibility means all kinds of accessibility. It means physical accessibility. It means emotional accessibility. Do I want to go to the park? Do I feel safe in the park? Is the park interesting for me? Those are all an important part of what has to be developed in terms of the plan. Obviously, a meeting like tonight goes directly to the next one. It's to foster an ownership and stewardship and pride in the park system, and we hope that you have that. And that's why I said that homework is, because it's not just you. It means the entire community. And the more we can get everyone involved in the process, the better off the system will be. Another important part of this, and this isn't the very exciting part of it, but it's an important part of making a good system, is making sure that the policies and priorities for maintaining and restoring the system are there. And what are the right policies and what you do and do not do within the system. Okay, we want to take just a second and just to see, is there anyone here that wants to jump in and say, what should we have out there? What's missing in the system today from your point of view? I'm going to stimulate your thought a little bit, just throw out an idea. And as I said, I don't live here, so. But one of the things that many communities, when we talk about trends and so on, is how many know what a splash pad is? Okay. It used to be back when I first got involved, it was wading pools. You could take kids, particularly youngsters, to wading pools. And in Roseville, we had a wading pool. And the issue with wading pools is, number one, is safety. Because unlike a swimming pool, or like when you go to the community center, it's different. And the expectations are, but they're still very, very dangerous when you go there. Also, the chlorination systems that it takes to maintain those, and we talk about sustainable, those are very, very challenging. Now, what a splash pad is, everyone knows what playground equipment is. A splash pad is playground equipment with water. And there's all kinds of different kinds. A lot of them have, you can go up and you push a button and it'll squirt you right in the face. Or it'll splash it up in the air. Or you can jump on the water as you go through. And there are different kinds of ways to do that. It's much more sustainable because you don't have the water that sits there and gets evaporates out in the air. It's set up on a computer. So it's only on when you touch it, and it can only be on certain periods of the day. So people can't go there after hours and try to climb over the fence like they do a lot of times with swimming pools and wading pools, because there's no water there. That's an example of something. And I'm not saying that Maplewood should have it, but in some of the other communities, I can tell you where I live in Roseville that we're putting in a splash pad. We're getting rid of the wading pool and going to the splash pad because it's safer, it's more economical, and it's better for the environment. Anything else like that you've seen that you want to throw? And it doesn't mean all this information is just gathering. You keep thinking about that one. Anything that's out there that you don't think, why do they have that? Why do they have this particular kind of equipment? Or, are people still playing softball a lot? Because at one time, again, when I was young and started this business, softball ruled almost the entire system. Everything was kind of built, every space, in almost every park in the city had a softball field. And now that's changed. People are active in a different way. Does anyone know what still the latest research is the #1 recreational aspect in communities in the states, in the communities in Minnesota? Anyone guess?
Lacrosse.
That's not the number one, but it's the number one fastest growing sport. Lacrosse is the number one fastest growing sport. The number one activity.
Soccer.
No, it's close. Soccer's big. Now, I'm talking about activity now. I'm not talking about necessarily sports or, I'm kind of setting you up for this. Well, it's biking, walking, and hiking. It's trails. That is still the major concern about people, is getting more access. And the reason for that is, it's a good one. It's because of health. The more active we are, both physically and mentally, by getting out and doing that, and doing it in a safe way. Well, these questions are simply out there, as I said, to stimulate your thought. When we break up in just a second and go around, you can talk in more detail about things in your neighborhood that you're thinking about, or concerns you have, or issues. Is something not being maintained as well as you think it could be or should be, or have you thought about doing this?
As you're asking along the lines, one of the things that I think about is more from the trails, the biking, the hiking type system, is you can have maps, but most people when they go out don't have maps with them. And what would be nice is along the route, whether you use them in your parks or at certain intersections of your trails, is kiosks showing where you are in the system and where's the trail taking you next, what goes off of it. Where it kind of reminds me is when you're on the state trail, every so often you come across a kiosk and it shows you are at this point in the system. It shows where other parks are. It shows where other amenities are, where other trails come in. I think to have that out would stimulate more people seeing how we connect one part of the city to the other. Because I think that the Parks and Recreation system here is what needs to be used to help tie our system together. We've got a city that goes from very far south to very far north and out to the west, and we have to develop our system in such a way that it ties it together. And I think if you use kiosks and showing how you can tie one part of the city to the other, getting from point A to point B, can help give some of that fabric that brings our community together.
That's an excellent point. The other thing, as you look out over the next 20 to 25 years, is this, with that same thing. Many systems now, you can take your PDA, your phone, and go up to it, and it will tell you. It will record a spot, and it'll tell you information all about the trail. When you go along the trail, be careful because there's a soft spot down the way or points to look at. As you wind around the curve, make sure you look off to the right because there's nesting areas there that you can appreciate and so on. So those are good points. Yes, sir?
Yeah, it's very easy to do with QR codes, and the signs are much cheaper than kiosks. And many people have QR readers. But in addition to the kiosks you were talking about, maps are very hard to come by, to get. And selling maps, to me, is okay. Selling a laminated, there's a lot of cities that I go to the bike shop and I buy the local map and it has complete details of where I can go. We don't have that, and we could have that, or laminate it so it's a little more durable to add to those kiosks. Then in addition, it seems like, I don't know whether you have demographic breakdowns, but age has a lot to do with participation. And so knowing, as you're doing the planning, knowing the concentrations and the projected age group in these areas, how in the next 20 years this family's going to mature, or this family's, how's it going to go? Are there projections on the aging of our city? It's landlocked. It's pretty much developed as much as it's going to be. So, where's it going? That'll help you plan kind of what kind of parks and how you want to tie them together.
Excellent point. On those 2 points, on the second one first, the task force is going through that information, but they're still trying to gather some additional information because it's exactly what you said. It's important, and it's important to know to a certain extent what the demographics were, because that reflects what the system, what they are, but equally important, what they are projected to be in the future. The other thing, either when they break up tonight or at some point, if you can connect with this young man right here, because I'd love to have you meet with him and talk about the laminated map system and what you've seen in some of those other places specifically to give them some ideas. It'd be excellent. Anything else? Any other comments?
Well, I met Mr. Yang, who sits right in front of you there. He mentioned about the culture game, and with the changing demographic, age-wise, also culture-wise too. I think it's important to distortion of people, the changing demographics.
Absolutely. If you get people that feel comfortable because they enjoy what they're doing, they will take more pride and ownership in that system. I will tell you for one thing, and we were talking about it earlier, because it just fascinates me. When I used to work in St. Paul and we had the festival there, and I always have to correct myself if I'm saying it properly, but it's Cateau. Is a game. It is one of the, if others of you have not seen that game, it is one of the most fascinating games. It's oversimplifying it by saying it, but it's a form of volleyball with your feet. It's a smaller ball, and they play it over the net. And it is, I know in St. Paul we were building a couple of courts. I don't know where that's happened lately. But that's an example of doing something like that, and I think you have already mentioned another sport that reflects what people want to do. So that's an excellent, excellent point. Okay. Again, homework. Go out, spread the word, tell people about the Parks and Recreation system in Maplewood and what you think it should be in the future, what should be added, what should be taken out, what's needed, and so on. And now, we're gonna go into these breakout sessions. If you want to talk about parks and trails, recreation programming, and maintenance, then you need to see Steve Love, engineer over there. They got together and wore green tonight, so you can go to the green boys.
I always end up matching with somebody.
We'll be there. And then, in terms of the Maplewood Community Center, and any environmental questions about the greenways and the park, the open space and nature center, you can go right to the chief, the director of Parks and Recreation. Dwayne is in the back. Dwayne, I know they saw you, but one more time. Again, I can't thank you enough for coming out, but again, don't consider this an end. This process, by the way, the task force is going to meet through the rest of the year. Then they're going to turn it over and work with a professional planner to develop the ultimate plan. And that also needs lots of feedback. So there will be additional sessions as they go on through the process. So again, thank you very much. And
where they do,